Little Star Life. Your hosts, myself, Andrea Yeager, Karen Vasquez, and Adriana Solarovo, are excited to answer audience questions, give a few of our favorite things, along with mentoring aspects from the 5 most recent guest episodes. Liz asked, how are your teachers in school? Did Karen miss school because of cancer? Did Andrea and Adriana miss school for tennis? I will let Karen go first on that question.
Yes, I did. When I was diagnosed, I was 11, so it was my last year in elementary, which is 5th grade back then. So I pretty much missed my graduation from 5th grade, and then I missed a lot of my middle school years. So I was homeschooled for the most part. But I didn't really think it was such a big loss because the hospital made it fun. So
That's great. So when you missed, how were the kids when you came back? Because you missed a lot and then you shifted into another, yeah.
so I went to 8th grade for a couple months, just to like get back to the school routine and stuff. But yeah, I mean, my hair was still growing back, so I looked kind of weird, and kids were kind of mean back then too. So, I did like 3 months maybe, and then I went back to homeschool, and then I started high school, and then that was like the whole 4 years of high school. So yeah.
So for eighth, so your last year before your high school was kind of that, and that's a big year for kids. It's like your junior high or, getting ready for high school, and then all of a sudden that. Did you have any lasting effects on you from that? Like, did it bother you when you went to high school? Were you like, oh, here I go. How is it going to be? Or were you excited because you felt normal because maybe your hair came back normal?
Yeah, no, my hair was already grown back by 9th grade, but I had braces. And then I guess being homeschooled kind of made me very like shy. So getting back to, the crowds and classes and the teachers and getting along with students and stuff like that, it was hard. It was really hard the first couple months of high school. And then I started making friends, or you know what? I became a teacher's pet actually.
That's a great story. That is awesome. Adriana, how was it for you?
I didn't I did go to school until about 7 normal, like
7th
regular
grade?
schedule. I did not go to school on regular basis after 7 years old, because that's when I started to train for tennis, and it started to get quite it wasn't just for fun anymore. So from then on it was much more involved, and I did not have the regular school schedule. And yes, so I did not go to school every day, I guess, or um I usually just mostly went for the exams, and had to do all the work on my own, self motivate, and get all the notes from the teachers, the instructors, and some of my friends in school. I didn't have that many because I didn't know too many anymore. I stopped going to school. So pros and cons, I think, both on both accounts. The social aspect of that, not that great, because missed out on making friendships during those times when you're in school. And But at the same time, I did enjoy having the variety. Like, I did go to school some, and then I played tennis, so that was great on that sense.
That's a big deal at age 7. 7, that's an early age. That's requires like a certain discipline too to finish and get your education, which you did, get your degrees, get your diplomas, then go to college and get a double major. And that's pretty cool. So I'm glad you both mentioned some of the setbacks, the pros and cons of that. Well, that's why. Okay, so when I was coming up with when I got this question, I was excited to answer it, and I started going through, and it does come a little close to what you're going through, but I added this other story, which I hope is okay. So, for me, I went to and graduated from public high school outside of Chicago, and my teachers were great. They had my this was such an advantage for me because my sister was 3 years older, and she was a student there before me, and she studied and worked really hard. She was valedictorian and homecoming queen. So all these teachers had my sister first and saw that she worked hard, saw that she got good grades, and so they figured that maybe the hard work and the smarts would be continuing with me. And so they were very kind. The teachers would actually get months ahead of work, a lot of times weeks, but a lot of times months, and they'd give me the curriculum. They'd give me all the studies ahead of time, which wasn't easy on them. And I so appreciate that to this day. And so when I was on the road playing pro tennis, I would study in the cars and hotel rooms, on planes, and that worked out really well for me. When I took my tests and finals, it would be summer school, or when people were in summer school, I'd come back, say I'd finished playing Wimbledon, and I'd come back and take my finals in the library in school. And so that worked. But and I actually ended up graduating high school early. So the thing that's interesting is what you both kind of said, the socialization part was different. It was really something that changed, and it wasn't because I missed it because I was training. I miss a lot of the school socialization things out of choice. It's like what you said, Karen. You went to school and then you went back home for the homeschooling to kind of adjust. So what happened with me was this interesting story. And every time I think of high school, I think of this story, and I'm just sharing it because it's a lesson I learned. And so I'm just going to go through this. So what happened was, I went to one school dance in junior high, and I dressed all up. Like, I was so excited. I think I had a flower in my hair. I had high shoes. I had this dress on. I was like ready to go. Kevin Buckby was my date for this dance. Okay, this is junior high. And he showed up at my house, like all dressed up as well. And my parents took pictures, and we were just so excited. Well, the thing is, Sports Illustrated and People magazine and Life magazine and local media had already started coming to my junior high and my home and high school as well. And so it changed, the experience completely changed when media showed up for my junior high. They, kids pretended that they were my friends. They would carry my books. They would be like, "Oh my gosh, Andrea, hey, Andrea, way to go," And it was so strange because then media would be gone, and they would push me in lockers. And I took it as if they didn't have like maybe a bigger picture awareness. They'd see me on TV, and then I was in school, and they didn't really understand it. So it just changed the experience for me. So there's this whole exchange where I just didn't really fit in. And so I had this one English teacher. Her name was Mrs. Helen Shaler, and she let me go. It's same thing. Like, you liked your teacher, Karen, and you went in her class. And so I went during lunchroom, and every single lunchroom, I'd go in her class and grade papers for her. And so this was really fun for me. And I met another student in there, and this is where my high school experience, my sister was a senior my freshman year, but the other 3 years, she wasn't there. She was at Stanford. And so my high school experience was so cool because of this one student I met. And it's just kind of one of those life examples, because this girl, people made fun of her really bad. They were really cruel to her. And she had a story to this day I don't think I've ever heard of in the news. And so what happened was, I grew up in this little town. It was just this really, it's almost like this Santa Claus winter wonderland town. Really kind, nice neighbors. Everybody's really cool. And there was this little store that we would ride our bikes to on the weekends and in the summer to get candy. And all the kids did that. And one day, this one girl was riding her bike there, and a car ran over her. And it was just one of those situations. But I remember reading the story in the newspaper because it was there a lot. And they talked about the car kept going over her and purposely did it. It wasn't like an accident. And so this story haunted this town, this wonderful town. And so it was reported on a lot. And the one line that I kept remembering from it, and sometimes the articles didn't even share her name because they wanted to protect her privacy and her recovery and healing. But the one line that they said, "Whoever you are that did this, you didn't win." And they said she lived. And so she spent a long time in hospitals recovering. And she came back to school, and you could tell she had a lot of surgeries on her face. She had artificial arm, lost her arm, and her legs were just, you could just tell she could barely walk. I mean, she survived, but physically you could tell she was through went through this huge trauma. And so when she came back to school, I was like, "Oh, wow, that's the girl from the articles," because I didn't know her before. And the kids in school in high school, they walked on the other side of the hallway from her, and they made fun of her, and they were really mean. And so she ended up being the other girl in the class with me grading papers for the teacher during lunchroom. And we had so much fun, and it was so weird because she never looked at me as different because of tennis, and I never looked at her different because of her accident. And she let me I was curious about her artificial arm and what happened, and she told me everything about it, and we shared this. I don't even know how to explain it, but when we were coming up with the story, I was, like, thinking, "Oh, yeah, I missed some school, but it was okay, it was cool. I missed months at a time, but it was alright," and I think of that girl, and I think about life in general because a lot of these episodes we're learning a lot, and we're hoping audiences are benefiting as well, a great deal, because the guests are extraordinary and the sharing and everything, but I think about this girl and how maybe back then it was something that I learned that here's someone that someone ran over and she got back up, she ended up getting back up.
Just like you said, I mean, being different, that was the same thing. I just didn't go into detail. I got knocked down so many times by teachers because of just sport, the way I had my schedule. They didn't know how much of a struggle it is. They didn't understand it. So one thing leads to another. They were adding more challenges to what I had to deal with. And that's great that you met somebody. And so, what about those that don't have that? What would
That's
you say to those? Like, let's say I
I
didn't meet a girl like that. I had to go and face those guys
Alone,
whenever I went back alone. And I
alone.
did. And not with fighting them back, or not with trying to, give that negativity back, because I wasn't that kind of a kid. I didn't get why they were so mean to me. So I tried to be even nicer. And just so they would leave me alone.
So you get in a cycle of being nice to people who aren't necessarily being nice. And I thought about that to go back at the end of this episode to share what would it be, and because there's some people that grow up without that. My this also later is that Paul Newman used to tell me, and he used to tell a lot of people, and I've read this in his articles, but I knew him well. He was a friend and felt like my family. And he used to say, "You make your own luck." So when I was thinking about that, and it goes to one of the episode guests who mentioned 3 words that were really important, that you have, I feel like God in the universe, when you fall down, they see you fall down and they watch you and you go, "Okay, she's getting back up. She's getting back up. Oh, she fell down again. Okay, she's getting back up." And I just believe somewhere along the line, if you look up to get up, somebody is there, something is there, whether it's energetically or faith or spiritually or physically. If you look long enough and hard enough, I just believe that that's there. And that story is so prevalent in my life of what, like, wow, what she went through and got back up, and still people were cruel to her. And I actually tried to find her once in my life because I wanted to say, "Wow, you were so cool in that classroom." Like, she would show me the mechanics of her artificial arm, and you that was the only time I'd see her smile. And then when we were in the hallways, when we'd see each other, we'd, like, wave. We're the only 2 people waving at each other. Everyone else was like, "Look at they were saying awful things. And I think it's a really good question, Adrian, and that's why we started this podcast for people who, a lot of people have friends and they have connections and they have things that are going on, but um what about the one that doesn't? Can we reach the one that doesn't and maybe feel like we get them? We get them because Adriana, as a 7-year-old, you're having to switch your things, not because of cancer, because of sport, and yet people don't get you. And then, and you're having to have a harder way of life on things you're choosing to do, and you want to make it easier for other people. And Karen is going through trying to just live, 2% chance of survival, and she doesn't want to go back to school because kids are being mean. And maybe somewhere along the line, we can help people choose, instead of being mean to someone, understand that maybe their walk has been tough too, and we can help each other get up, you know? Um, so anyway, so that was like kind of my thing of my No, all of us. This is so fun. Okay, so the next question, I'll just give these initials of the person. The initials were Elsie. So Elsie asked, "What is the first thing you do after work?" So Karen, would you like to answer that one?
Sure. Well, it depends by day. So, but usually once I get home, I play with my pets, with my two dogs for a bit, and then I come to my room and then lay down for a couple of minutes, and then get back my energy back up, and then I go downstairs and eat dinner, and then usually by 8:30, I like to exercise and then shower and go to bed.
Wow, you exercise at 8:30. What do you do?
I bought a treadmill because you know I am lazy just to like go out. And I'm like, where should I go? Like, and then I don't like people looking at me. I feel weird. So I'm like, I just bought a treadmill.
That's so
I have it
awesome.
in my parents' room. So yeah, by 8:30, I'm like, do not come to the room. I'll be exercising for 30 minutes.
That's so awesome.
So
Yeah.
Karen is on the podcast and she just
Yes.
people looking at her. Man.
That's why I don't go to the gym because I feel like people are just like looking at you, even though they're probably doing their own thing. But I'm just like weird like that. I don't like crowds. I don't like,
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's so awesome. I I I went to a gym, Adriana had some training things. She was giving me these strengthening exercises and I didn't do so very good. She said, "You know what? I don't think the gym's for you. I don't think you're that." I wasn't that person. I know. You go for both of us. All three of
for that.
And I'm not too comfortable in front of crowds. It's very strange when when you play tennis, you play in front of people, bunch of them, and and I normally anything else, it's just like pulling teeth. So I, but the gym is if I don't go, it's harder for me to get it done. So for me to go there, it's more like, oh, all right, well, they're doing it. It's nice to see people doing it. They're not really looking at me, so it's great. Or maybe I'm ignoring them because I don't look around. So that helps me. For me, that's the reason, and that's what I do after work. So I was just gonna answer that.
You're good and comfortable at the gym. Like you know what you're doing. Like yeah. And she does. She knows what she's doing. Like, I go and I sit on a machine, and one time Adriana was like, "You have to move the pin. That's you have to move the pin in there." And I'm like, "Okay." So it's like, it just
Wasn't always like that. I started off just I remember going for the first time and my people are going to think, what is she doing? Because the workouts are quite specific to the craft and I did get looks. And it wasn't surprisingly when somebody stopped me, they weren't saying, what are you doing? They were just like, wow, I've never seen anything like that. It looks incredible. And you're so like, we don't see this often. So it's you'd be surprised people are some mostly would be probably impressed by you. It's not
yeah, I'm gonna stick with Karen and stay inside. And I'll tell you a cool gym story. Okay, so I was at a hotel, and when I'm at hotels, if I can't run in the city or something, I'll go to the gym. And I was on a there was none of those like exercycles there, so I went on a treadmill. So I looked next to the treadmill, and who's on the treadmill next to me? But it was at the time President Barack Obama. And so of course I had to like talk to him and like hand him my business card and tell him I'm from Chicago and what I did and everything. So I was like working at it. But okay, so
printing and everything, right? I remember. So like try to keep up with them. And
I sent it. I was like doing a video.
he's gotta keep up with you.
And and you could tell Secret Service were there because they kind of came closer the more I talked to them, and it was like they kind of saw me. I had like workout clothes on, so it wasn't like I had anything with me other than that. But I always go to the gym with a business card just in case. But okay, so for me, after work, and I think parents out there will understand this. They probably can understand that you never stop being a parent to your child. The child may go on to college, they may move away, they may get married, they may still visit, rarely visit, whatever it is, a parent always remains a parent. And so that's how it is for me with Little Star Foundation. So I do have passion for what I do, and it qualifies as work as well. I mean, it's there's some parts of it, I think anything in life that you have a passion for, there's going to be some parts that might be more difficult than others. And that's certainly with the foundation work as well. So how I kind of look at my work when Dr. Agus or people are like, "Oh, what do you do in your time?" I kind of switch categories. So I have like program administration and fundraising. So when I do things for fun that are separate from it, like say whether it's teaching Charlie to swim or if it's like I'm going to a conference or doing a study about a corks or something or a cork study, I try to always even take my downtime. So the reason I'm saying this is my work flows into my life, and I'm sure some people would say, well, that's it's better to do it differently. But this works for me because since I was little, I always love having purposeful, even playtime. Like there was always a purpose there behind it. And so I do the same thing with the other time. I want it to benefit with the foundation some way, so others can benefit. And so that's kind of and that's what makes it hard for some people who work with me because they're like, Do you when's my time off?" Because time off is important to a lot of people. I just kind of mold it together because little stars.
While you're doing that, for somebody who serves the humanity, it doesn't just mean I need to be behind the computer or
Yeah.
like you said, you teach Charlie swimming and you share it with others. You don't know what that's going to do for someone. Just like I go to the gym and I put myself to work without trying to impress anybody, they might be inspired by that. Same with Karen. So hey,
Yeah.
maybe one day you'll go to the gym, but now you just said someone, hey, you know what? I don't feel like that's my cup of tea to go to the gym, so I get a treadmill and do something about my health. So that's wonderful. It doesn't mean it all stops
Yeah.
once you leave the office.
Yeah, it's well put. It's like the flow continues and we can be inspired. Like someone else might say, "Oh, great. I love going to the gym." The next question is from Aaron, which I will answer. It said, "Have you had a guest name come up that you thought of and said, no, let's not invite the person?" And what I'll say is so far it has been wonderful. We have a waiting list of people. We do have we could actually be doing daily podcasts with all the people between us that we know or that we would love to have on that have said yes. The goal is to educate and inform, entertain, and enrich audiences. We want to have people have a great time. But what we also realize is some of these guests have books and teachings that that audiences want to incorporate. So a few people have mentioned to me about, what, I would like to read their book and incorporate some of this in my life. And so what we're going to do is go bi-weekly on Wednesday episodes. So that gives time for people. I mean, some of it for me, I can I'll stay up because I'm too excited for a book. So I'll read it during night. And that continues. But for others, people don't have that ability. So we want to make sure they have that. But in terms of guests, there's a bunch of people that have sent me lists of guests to ask, and we are working on that. So I just want to let people know for that. So now, well, there's a lot more other questions. We're going to get to that in another volume of answering these questions. We want to get to the episodes. And this isn't when we share one or two things on the episodes, the last 5 that we've had with guests, this isn't all we've taken from an episode. It's just one thing of many. And so we're going to start with that. And so maybe all of us have something in common that we'll bring up and what we thought of, an insight that came from an episode. And if not, it's even better because then we're learning something new. So the most 5 recent guest episodes, we had Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. So Adriana, do you want to share something from that episode that she joined us on?
Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor is incredible. And I enjoyed how kind and warm she was with us, considering everything she's doing. So I enjoyed learning about whole brain living and the tools that she is giving us all to do the brain huddle, to evaluate our behavior, and then that we make these choices for ourselves. We always have the choice how to react. So and that and how our brain operates. And that one thing I really enjoyed finding out was that we actually on our emotional system never matures. So that kind of puts a nice little perspective from when we speak to elderly, like let's say my family or my parents or um, different old elderly people, and then you react to a certain behavior a certain way. So I have a little more compassion these days because of that. I look at myself that way for my shortcomings in some ways. I'm like, okay, well, let's just, I guess, keep my climbing the Mount Everest. So that's what I enjoyed really with her. She's incredible.
Karen?
Uh, Same. I think of Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor and like, Brain Huddle. That's like the first thing that comes to my mind. You know, being able to recognize what you're feeling and be able to cope with the situation that you're facing, and that will help prevent anxiety and even panic attacks. So I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, very important as well. For me, I'm forever amazed by, and sometimes when we're having conversations, we say Dr. JBT, but by her ability that she had to relearn how to walk, relearn how to talk, relearn her how to live, and relearned her neuroscientist, neuroanatomist degree. So she did all that, and that to like every day. I wake up going, wow, I do so much automatic, and she had to relearn that. And it wasn't instantaneous. It took her like 8 years to do all that. And so that to me is impressive. And obviously she had to relearn all that from the stroke. If any of you are familiar with her, that you'll know that. And then she now takes her time to help others, like live more peaceful, live more purposeful, have the ability to have like what you both mentioned, the not just the coping mechanisms, the ability to understand perhaps other people and yourself more in each situation. In we have our announcements. We have announcements now in our Little Star Foundation website. You can go to the program section and there's announcements on the episodes and announcements on news. And so when we were telling everyone about her episode coming up, we mentioned that for Little Star Foundation alumni, for kids with cancer that have survived, the childhood cancer survivors, we were providing her training course for free if anyone was interested in taking it. And so our program director team at Little Star Foundation took the course, and it was a 4-week course, and you had homework, and it was incredible because she taught it, and to have that opportunity to learn is pretty amazing because you learn whenever you learn something to help someone else, you learn something about yourself to improve upon. I know that was what happened with me in that situation, and so um, and I know that there's several saints that have said this, the more I learn, the less I know. And so that's something that's really cool. But it is exciting because she's also going to be training people to become instructors. And so I'm I'm going to do further work with her so I can help be an instructor to further benefit children with cancer and their families, because there's things that are so enormous that are coming down. You know this, Karen, from like a family getting diagnosed, that all of a sudden sometimes your brain stops functioning and you go on automatic, and then how do you re-engage in life, and the traumas on that. You can watch the podcast again or get her books, okay, because they're bestsellers for a reason.
You
Okay,
know,
other
while you were actually saying something about Dr. Jill Balti Taylor, and we were talking about the other topic before that, you're so passionate about what you do and you still keep going basically kind of all day long until you go to sleep. And I wanted to make sure that the audience would understand that it doesn't mean, oh gosh, I gotta work harder now. You have to do what brings you most joy, and if it brings kindness and brings goodness and betterment for the humanity, oh my gosh, yes, that's for me, that's the key. I think that I wanted to others to understand that really brings me joy. And
That's Yeah, it's really important to say that. And Dr. Agus, when they listen to that episode and we go to him, he mentioned downtime is super important. And that's what made me think about it. What do I do on my downtime? Oh my gosh, I'm going to teach Charlie how to swim because she might like it. And the kids are going to love it. She'll be at a beach or a pool with them one day. And it's like, here we go. So, but you're absolutely right. It's like bringing joy and finding joy is um, each personal. And so I certainly respect that. Okay, so Evan Bale O'Keefe's episode. Karen, what would you like to share?
Well, her life story, I was able to relate with her about when she was telling that it took a while for her to get diagnosed. Um, that same thing happened with me. It took probably 2 to 3 months to get diagnosed. They kept telling me that I had a cold, that it was a flu, and I kept getting worse. And like Evan, she kept getting worse until they finally found what she had. And then they started treatment, and it was a whole roller coaster of ups and downs. So I totally relate with her. And I just love the fact that she's living in Ireland and she took that's a big leap, It's like a whole different world. So I admire that of her.
Mm.
Adriana? Yeah, absolutely. She's waiting for me to start my journey down my journey.
People that have such unique and amazing stories. I agree with Karen. She has an incredible journey that she's gone through, and despite the challenges she had to go through, she became a successful and award-winning blogger, mom, and wife, and continues to inspire people. It's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. She grew up on, near Washington D.C. and Virginia, and then took that leap to get over to Ireland. And what I so enjoy too, and I've known her since she's a little girl, but what's impressive is she naturally lives connected to the blessings of life. She's had so many dips down in life and struggles, but she naturally connects and goes, okay, but I've got this. Okay, this has happened. It's all right because I'm going to work with this, and I'm going to create something wonderful out of it. And so she's done that with life. She takes any kind of experience, and then she just goes, I'm going to make something really cool, like crafting. And she created her Evan OK blog, which is this international blog that's bestseller, and she loves it. And she brings these crafts and recipes to people, and people might joy doing that in their life too, where you can create something special in your life no matter the ingredients. She brings sparkles to life by the way she lives. And we go back the earlier episodes, so many of those examples, Evan does that. She does it with sparkles, and that's really cool. So Leslie Visser is next. Adriana, why don't you step in first?
Okay. Leslie Visser had, she had a lot of words of wisdom for the audience, and like little pearls throughout the interview. And her mom's quote that fueled her passion is beautiful. And it felt more like a mutual conversation with her as she asked a lot of questions, which was sweet. I think she was really trying to get to know us and make that connection with us, and spread all the wisdom. It's wonderful.
Karen?
Well, she was really fun. I love that she knew at the age of 11 that she wanted to be a sports writer, and she was able to make her dream come true, despite the challenges and the fact that there were no women back then. So I thought it was really, really cool.
And she
I'm
mentioned
still, I'm 33. I still don't know what I want to do
That's cute.
with my life.
what a great things to
Most of the
do.
successful people don't still, and they're
Right?
a lot older.
So three of the words that she did mention were passion, knowledge, and stamina. And so she said those are three qualities and three words that helped her succeed in her career and life. And I mentioned earlier how Paul Newman would say you make your own luck. And so in my situation with the foundation, I would say certainly passion. And it's not just a foundation; it's like life and tennis and early years and forever years. And so passion, knowledge, and stamina are great. I would add faith. Faith has certainly been instrumental in my life. And I really do think that miracles and blessings come when you keep getting up, when you keep looking for like that better side of things, or whatever has happened, make a recipe out of it, regardless of what has happened. And I do believe God and the universe look and go, okay, here, let's add something to it for them. Now we're on to Judy Jordan. So Karen, do you want to share first on Judy?
Definitely. So I really learned from Judy that, having a support group can help you overcome hard times and give you confidence and to keep going. Also learning that it takes 8 years to make wine was actually pretty amazing. I didn't know.
You're gonna drink it like
Just buy it from the store
you're
and then you drink it and you don't even take in consideration what was put into making the effort to make that wine. So I thought it was really cool.
Mhm.
very good points. Very good points. Adriana?
Yeah. She struck me as extremely humble and kind and this bubbly personality and considering what she's done, it was very cute to not cute, it was inspiring to see that. I know she built a business on her own, and didn't have all the support and had a challenging journey herself and is now she giving back by sharing her passion with other women interested in being an entrepreneur and in that field. And yes, I agree with Karen, the emphasis on teamwork. It's yeah. So I really enjoyed that podcast with her, and I would like to sit down with her one day and drink some of her delicious wine, and maybe play some fun doubles.
Absolutely. What is wonderful too about our episode, people connect with me after they'll, whether it's email or text or call or bumping into a store or whatever. And it was interesting. This one wasn't bumping into a store; it was more an email. But Adriana's parents contacted me after Judy's episode, and they invited her to come to Europe and try some of their local wine. And they sent me a picture of a label they wanted me to show her, and they wanted to like kind of open their doors to her, a stranger, with that. And it was so special because if anyone's seen those movies of like a really special family meal where the ingredients are from a garden that and it's just put together with love, and it's not even for a holiday, it's just like a regular meal, and they sit down and there's a celebration, like food and wine and family is a celebration. And that I saw that at Adriana's house, and I've seen that in other people's homes as well. But when her parents contacted me and shared that, it reminded me of it. I mean, they have their own, like they've created like these bees, or the bees were created, and they have them, and they have their own honey, and then they share that with their community. And it remind me with Judy's, the love of the land, like what land has given us. We go to it's like what you said, Karen, you go to the store, you get your wine, you drink it, it's gone. It's like 8 years it took for that, and other things as well. The farmers who are on their hands and knees and getting things from crops, and then the weather explodes, and just the gratitude of what you get to eat, having food. I mean, I often think about that because we provide meals to families, and there's families that are food deprived because they don't have the money to get food, and it's just like whoa. And you walk in a grocery store and you can get things, you're just like wow, how is that even possible? And so the one thing I also recognize with Judy's is she really put a light bulb up there on the mentor part and the leadership part, because she brought that up about a lot, in the teamwork part, and how whoever you are, whatever stage you are in your life, you have an opportunity to either be someone to inspire someone else, or you can be inspired by someone else. There's always something that can be happening. And so that really made me feel like we can do more with these episodes, and like what we're doing here is sharing and going wow. Before we close up Judy's episode, uh she talked a lot about time, treasure, and talent. And I think with her, like her life of giving, because of that, gratitude of that blossomed, I think, more so because she was aware of what she was putting in something and what was returning back to her, helping her, which was the land. I mean, the land really had to participate in that. And so it's kind of like the full circle of life, where if you're experiencing something and you're being, which we all are in this time, being and yourself being, and you're presenting full circle, that it's important to keep that going, because so often we receive, there's lessons everywhere. We are a teacher and we are a student. And so to be have gratitude for that. And when you do receive a lesson, I know that I don't know if that story I shared about that girl who was so courageous and so incredible and fought for her life every single day to survive after what happened to her, and then went back to school and people were mean to her, how much more she had to try just to get through the day. And yet she had joy in showing me how her artificial arm worked. And I don't know where she is in the world. Maybe she's in spirit, maybe she's in physical form, but it's like I feel like just sharing about her and thanking her for those experiences of showing courage and being someone that maybe in a way, indirectly or directly, taught me to get back up like anytime. So anyway, okay. So Doctor, um, so that was a long, I tend to get a little wordy. So we'll continue on with Dr. David.
We like summarize it. So I like it's a beautiful message. Oh my goodness.
It just takes me a while to get there sometimes. Okay, so Dr. David Agus, Karen, I will say this, watching Karen had such joy connecting. I don't know if it was because he knew her. Like, he knows your story. He knows what you lived through. It was like watching her sit with Santa Claus. Like, you had this bubbly effervescent happening the whole time. So anyway.
Because I know that he's also a cancer doctor. I've had experiences with cancer doctors, so
Yeah,
maybe.
there was a special connection there for sure. Absolutely.
Well, I definitely loved how he was able to connect his research of animals to the lives of humans. It was amazing learning that, elephants have cancer-proof blood, and that even though giraffes have such high blood pressure, they don't suffer from heart problems, or that pigeons are so smart that actually being called a pigeon or a bird brain is actually a compliment. So to me, all those were like, oh my God, this is like something new. It's not just a book about how to change things, it's relating it to how animals do it. And then maybe if we implement a little bit of it in our lives, we can, try to make a difference as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm assuming it's my turn.
Yes.
So it's hard to go after her because she really, Karen summarized it so well. And this particular podcast, you were just, it just felt really up in your alley, and you were very passionate of speaking about this. And I will just add to it. And the book is beautiful, and exactly for those reasons that you just said. And for me, what resonated from that and then further was that we as human beings are not stuck with what we are giving at birth in terms of genes and some of the health history and other things, and that we can make choices, and we have a choice, and it's to live by that instead of let's say, some negative news. So we have the resources to change, in a sense, our destiny or path or
Absolutely, absolutely. And for anyone who's watching going, wait a minute, how did you hosts get that book? It's not out till December 2023. So the re-edited version is coming out December 2023. We did have a copy. So anyway, we were able to read that and be informed on it. And so with Dr. Agus, there was so many powerful health messages within that, and in every topic he shared, and thinking about them over the course of time, since he did have that sharing in that episode, he talked about the intensity of what drives him and how important that is, and I get that because there's on what this is the 38th year of like Little Star Foundation work. So it's just foundation work. I did some hospital work before that, but I'm so grateful for all the kids and the families and the communities and everyone. But I'm also intensely driven by those we haven't reached. And so and I think that when you said that at the beginning, Adriana, it was so important when you said, well, what about the person who doesn't have the mentor? What about the person who is alone? And that's where, for me, it's a happy excitement, but it's a driven intense. I mean, both of you have probably seen me in my intense mode where it's like, you know what, we strive for excellence. This you maybe listen or watch this podcast and like, oh, they're so much fun. It's like they're so lighthearted, and I would love to hang out with them. Well, hang out with me on a deadline, and then see if you're gonna still say the same thing. But or when we were when you want some when we want to do best for the family, like we do. Yeah, it is, and I do take that as a compliment because we live in a world, or I live in a world where, and you know this, Karen, when you come for sessions and programs, if medicine has to be provided and doctors are there and it has to be accurate, and there's a protocol that has to be followed. So everything we do, it might be very lighthearted, and we're pretty extraordinary on presentation, looking lighthearted, but the amount of work that goes into a program is enormous. And we don't want anyone to ever have to understand the enormity of that, because it's for the fun and laughter. But that's what was cool, that I enjoy with Dr. Agus, because he has put in his heart and his passion, and then he's built this institute of, to transform health for people, and he loves doing it, and he wants to do that. And so that's really, really special. I also really loved how he broke it down simple. It's like, okay, look, if you want to really do something to also help your life, here he has these books and his knowledge in the institute, but get your ears checked, have your eyes checked, have someone, go to the dentist, because those three areas can show a clean bill of health, but it can also have a bigger picture on your health. And so I loved how he did that. And he had so much fun with us. I mean, he brought up how David Foster had fun with us, and and I hear back from guests that are like, "Oh my God, it was so much fun." Do you have recurring times?
I love that when you were speaking of the institute, and he's incredible, and how much just his part, and he's like, oh well, there is this artwork, that this incredible artist, and every single room is specifically painted, and the artwork is specifically chosen. There's so much thought that went into building this incredible place for people to find healing. And that passion, he's so driven, and he just knew from a very young age, that's what I wanted to do.
Right, absolutely. And then when he talked about the lab, he wants people, there's windows so people walk by and go, they're working on a cure for me. They're doing that for me. And that aspect of that, it's like when I talked about going to Judy Jordan's, I thought about this later going, I hope people understood this. When I talked about going to her winery, it was like Disney World for me. It wasn't because I got to try wine. She didn't let me try the wine because I was a minor. I didn't want to, but it was the business side of it, the world of effort that they put in to make something, the care and the compassion and the love. And yes, it was a business, but there was such heart and spirit and soul in it. And that's when you look, and that's what we're trying to bring to everyone with the guests and with us as hosts too. I mean, we and audience members, we all have something to contribute to humanity, but there's times we need to be picked up. All of us do. And there's times that we do it for each other. Karen and I were laughing on the phone the other day. And one time, Adriana and I were at an event, and we were laughing so hard. And these aren't easy subjects we're laughing about. We're laughing just because it's like we're doing something together, and we're doing it in challenging circumstances, but it's the fellowship of it, the teamwork, and the love of the joy of it. And that's where it's cool, because the guests that do come on, and we search for these too. We look for those that would be excited, that would be honored to talk to, each of us as well as share their story. This is us flowing. So it's now, if I know we can say it, whether it's leadership, words of wisdom, mentoring, I do want this to be more so in episodes coming forth. And so how would you each, if you want to, you don't have to, like for me, I want to share that in mentoring, that if you have received, like, say, time, treasure, and talent from a mentor, if you receive pearls of wisdom or experience, even if you've understood it 20 years later, bring it full circle in gratitude. Even if you can't find that person that gave it to you, send it up to the universe, send it up to God, say thank you in that, and pass it on, be it in full circle, bring it on in full circle and shine it. shine it within and shine it outwardly. And I think we'll all be better for that, and certainly you enjoy it more. You have a bubbling effervescence outwardly and inwardly, even when times are tough. So anyway, okay. So anyone else want to share on that part? But
That's beautiful. I love that. I feel grateful for you and Karen, Andrea. I want you to know that I'm serious.
I feel it. I feel it. No, seriously. It was Judy's episode, and I've heard it before. You mentioned that there's times that I've inspired you both, and I sat back and I went, I need to pay attention to this. Like I need to go, okay, chop chop, let's bring it to the episode so other people benefit because I learned from both of you. We learn from each other, and I think the world becomes a better place by every person that we have in our lives can teach us something. And whether it's something to avoid or something to embrace, it teaches us something. And that's and more gratitude in the world, whether it's energetically or however it's placed in there, I think it benefits anybody. So
What about you, Karen? Words of wisdom for today.
yeah.
Um, I think Andrea summed it up pretty
You've
well.
said them. You've said a lot of
Yeah.
them already. Yeah.
And also,
Well,
I like to say that sometimes actions do speak louder than words too. So
Yeah.
I can sometimes be a person that likes to lead by example rather than tell you what to do. So I like to do it, initiate it first, and
Nice.
then you watch me, and then you can do it like that or better. So
Beautiful.
that's a really, really important one because I often think that people know, um, and then they'll just do or be, and sometimes it's like, oh, they can watch you, or I'll learn from someone else by watching rather than being told, and so that's a very good point. All right, you all, thanks. Blessings to you both, and certainly to our audience too. Look forward to next episode and every moment anyway.